Right, hi everyone. Hope you are safe and well during these times. Today, as part of our Beyond the Field of Play vodcast, I'm so pleased to be joined by Nathan DaCosta, Steve Braybrook and Jimmy Punter. The reason why we are discussing or we are chatting together today is just to do a review of the warm weather training camp that we've now done for this coming year in 2021 will be our 5th year. So we're just going to go through, why we do it, what the importance is of it, and also just a nice review for the guys that went on it, but also having the potential. We're looking for, it'll run in 2021, so we want people to come along and obviously feel the benefits that we know that we have had at start as well as the players have. So, in terms of Salou, just briefly, it's in Spain. It's kind of northern side of Spain. It's about an hour away from Barcelona. We fly into Barcelona airport. You can also do it through Royce Airport as well. Again, in terms of how we get looked after exceptionally well by the travel company Equity, who we've now used every year since we've been started to do this. The resort that we use is Canberra Sports Park, which is linked with the Football Salou resort, which is where we train and play our matches. So when we go in February, which is kind of off season, which is perfect because the only people that are there wanting to train, wanting to better themselves. So we'll have a look at the amount of teams that were there while we were out there. And it's not just football; it's now expanding to rugby. Also a lot of cycling teams and running groups. They go out there to train as well for a lot of positive reasons, which I'm sure Nathan will go through and Steve will go through in terms of their roles as well, and the benefits that going away and having a bit of sun on the back can bring. Very close to the beach as well. So with regards to that, we always do our beach work on the final day, a little bit of a beasting session, but again, it's all about providing a professional environment for those guys over the 4 days. So in terms of the actual aim of the camp, really, it's kind of at the business end of the season. So usually in February, touch wood, we've been doing exceptionally well, both in league and cup competitions. I think up until that point, this year in particular, we were still in like 7 or 8 competitions. So for those players that came out with us, it was a nice break. It was also an important time to be together and to work together and to continue to develop the player and the person too. So moving on to day one, basically that was travel day. So we started off early, but the thing that we did do day one is we played a game straight away. So. Chaps, Jim, I'll start with you, mate, in terms of your thoughts on, kind of the first day, and I'll be quiet for a minute, and then guys, just crack on, and then we'll move to the game.
Yeah, the first day is an interesting one because obviously the boys are very, very excited to be there. It's great to see them all together, especially when they've got all their kit on ready. I think one of the good things about it as well is obviously the accommodation that we stay in. You'll probably see in the bottom left-hand corner with the boys staying like their own little bungalows, their own little chalet sort of things, and they're kind of going groups of 4, and it's their bit of independence. And I think that's another thing that's key about the trip is that the boys do have the sort of first bit of independence on their own in a foreign country, which I think is really key, actually. Just, we spoke about, I know you spoke about, Dave, about developing players, but also the trips there to develop people. And sometimes, with the groups that we have, maybe those certain people don't, associate with each other as much as others possibly in the group. So it's nice to bring players together in an environment where actually they can grow as people. And I think that's really, that hits home on day one. When they get their own chalet and they have to sort their stuff out, and the fact that we just give them a time, so we'll be leaving at I think we leave at something like 4:00 to go down to Football Salou, the training pitches, And between that time, we just give them a time. So the boys just got to be ready for then, and then we go from there. So I think that's a really key part of day one is making sure that the boys are happy with where they are, and making sure that they know the ground rules for the rest of the trip, really.
Cool. Steve, got anything, mate?
Yeah, I think day one's always a difficult day because you get off the plane and you've had a very early start, very early leave, and it's like a lot of waiting around in the airports, and then you get off the plane, and then it's like an hour travelling, and it takes a bit of time to find your accommodation, and by the time you put your bags down, I think it's straight to the game, and Nathan and myself, we did a little bit of warm up. But I think one of the things that sticks in really from the first day is, even though it's a long day, even though boys are tired, even though potentially hungry and want to enjoy the sunshine and the environment that they're in, they still realise that they're there to play a game of football. So I think it's one of those things where it teaches them very quickly that you've got to put everything aside, all the fun, all the enjoyment, all something new, the sunshine, what's going to happen the following day, the food you're going to get tonight, the stories and the things that you're going to do, in your groups. They realise quickly that you put that aside and you go and play a game of football, and no matter where you're playing, if you're playing in Spain or you're playing on homeland, the idea is to win that game. And that's the good thing about day one, because you go from the high of being in a new country with that sun on your back, like a holiday type spirit with it, and within seconds, when you're on that training pitch getting ready for that game, it's all business. And if that starts quickly, then the rest of the tour, the rest of the sort of 2-3 days there is very enjoyable, because you leave that night, have a good meal, have a laugh, have a chat, talk about how the game went. I've been there twice now and I'm beaten in all the games, because like I keep saying, and I say it all the time though, is that whatever happens, the idea is to win that game of football, and that breeds an enjoyable and a very encouraging next few days.
Hey, if you got anything for me in terms of how you prep the boys, particularly, just literally we literally just got off the plane, lobbed our bags in the room, and then went down to the training complex to play our first game against the Spanish side. So what sort of things did you do, mate?
So I think like Steve was saying, is the thing with the first day is that it is a challenging start, because like Jimmy touched on, and I think you did as well, Dave, and Steve certainly did, is they're up early, you're in cramped conditions, you're traveling through airports, you're not getting the best quality air, all that sort of stuff that we know is a negative of travel. But the reason why it's organised in such a way is it basically just maximises the experience of the players. So for us, as soon as we get there, it's kind of that switch psychologically from it's going to be a great trip, and of course it's an absolutely amazing experience for the guys. It's that switch psychologically to that. As soon as we get touched down in Spain and we've made the hour journey to our accommodation, it's that switch from this is going to be fun to now we're here to play a game of football, but most importantly we're here to win a game of football. So from a physical standpoint, it's a tough ask for the lads, because they normally haven't eaten particularly the foods they would normally eat in preparation for a game at home, when it's a lot more manageable to do that. And then you've also got the cramped conditions of airline travel and coach travel, whatever. So what we do is, as soon as we get there, it's all about just kind of loosening up the legs, focusing on mobility, and not kind of doing anything too strenuous with the guys before they actually play their game. It's just getting them used to the surroundings and getting them switched on physically, which in turn switches them psychologically, which is obviously what Steve's remit is as part of the team that goes over there. But for anyone who listens to this and they take their team, or even if they're traveling in England, they're going on long coach journeys, the best thing you can really do, and what we emphasize, is just focusing on some mobility, trying to loosen up the sort of your hamstrings, your lower back, those areas which are typically tight, especially on males and male footballers. So that's kind of our focus. And then obviously just go into our game prep, which is ramping things up and kind of exciting the nervous system, so to speak, and then getting them ready. Yeah, we're getting ready for that first game.
Yeah, so great points provided from from all of you there, you know, I think the one thing I want to stress massively to everyone that's listening to this is that, you know, we call it a training camp. You know, we don't call it a tour. It's not a jolly. We're not here to, you know, we're here to work. It is an extension of the program, and the aim of it is to work as professionally as possible, like we do all year round. But it's obviously in it's more of a confined space, more of a confined amount of time. So obviously with that in mind, then we have to have the expertise that I have here in front of me today to be able to maximise that. And looking at just the middle picture before we go on to the first game and how we got on, because I think we ended up winning 5-2 the first game, you know, which was outstanding considering, you know, the amount of fatigue that probably those boys were going through. It's just that the difference of, you know, of teams from around the world. So we had teams from Germany, you know, Saudi Arabia have now got like some under 23 developmental system running out of that complex. Legia Warsaw are out there, the Polish champions, you know, so that's the kind of level that you're working with. So obviously, you know, as a player that will be going out to this environment, you've got to give it absolutely everything in terms of mind and body. And obviously, you know, the idea of it when we do it just before February half term is to also ensure that with that they have a full week of recovery too. So moving on to the next slide, we're going to look at the goals. And obviously, I'm joined by Ralph, my son here, so then he can watch the goals as well.
Daddy, look. For you.
Oh, cheers, mate. Right.
Can I open it?
Yes, go on, mate. Off you go.
Yes.
So, think back to this, boys. We were straight off the plane, great preparation. We played a side. I think, Jim, you know, right in saying that the two sides we played this year were a lot more competitive than in previous years. Gave us some real problems to solve. But I just think kind of our directness kind of and our ability to play forward kind of helped us massively out there. So just going to go through the goals, and if anyone want to comment about them, you know, I can stop them, this, that and the other, that's cool. But this is the first goal scored by Naoki. So, you know, Naoki, what a guy he is. You know, come from Japan, just come from the year. Again, chapped his work ethic and, you know, how his attitude is, he's second to none.
100%.
This next goal is quite interesting because obviously, for people that know, we've got a little bit of reputation for set pieces. So even without us knowing about the team in particular, we wanted to kind of stamp our authority physically onto them. So guys, how did we do that? Obviously there's a great example right here, but how did we do that in this game, do you think?
I think from, you know, from experiences that we've had before when we've gone out there, I think it's this is something that is so fundamental to the trip and the trip that we did prior to Italy as well, is that there's so many different cultures of football, and the culture of football out in Spain, you know, they're not particularly used to the physicality that we might see in the English game. I know when we went out to Italy, they were very physical. They were very competent defenders. We had to change our tact a little bit, but with the Spanish sides, it was really, really good that we were direct, because, you know, especially things like long balls, they don't play long balls particularly. You know, they did come out and want to play sort of tiki-taka style of play, which is absolutely fine. And I think the way we dealt with that is by really pressing hard and making sure that we can be physical in and around them. And I think that set piece was a brilliant example of that, because actually not many of them are coming up against teams who have the height that we had in that game, because we had players like Ollie who's absolutely massive. We didn't really know how to deal with it, and that's again is part of the reason why we do the trip, is so that the boys can experience actually you've got to play differently against some cultures of football. These guys, you know, we had to they pop the ball around well, so we had to be patient at times when we were pressing. So we couldn't go and lunge in and go and commit ourselves too early, but we did have to go and, you know, and stamp our authority on the game, like you said earlier, Dave.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop this in a minute because I think we know what's coming up. But you know,
Yeah.
I'm sure. Obviously, we all know players that went with us, and you know, I was really pleased for the likes of Ollie Hodges, you know, the likes of Freddie Ryan. You know, those kind of guys really came out of themselves as a personality, and especially, you know, for these first year guys that are coming into the group with not as many second years. You know, we had the likes of Nick, we had the likes of Tom. You know, excellent, if you want to call them senior players at, you know, at 17, 18 years of age. You know, senior players, you know, really setting a good example. But, you know, before I show this free kick, fellas, Steve, Nate, you got any thoughts on the first game? You know, 5-2, good win, maybe a couple of sloppy goals conceded, but all in all, a successful start to the training camp.
Yeah, I think obviously my remit, and more so, I guess, coming on board with last 4 years of us as a team, is that I obviously probably have more of an eye on the physical side of things, and it was good to see that we managed to maintain a very high intensity for the whole duration of the game. Obviously, there were some rotations with players, but you know, a lot more people can normally give a lot more when they're psychologically switched on, and we definitely saw this in this first game because, like you said, being English mentality is potentially more physical than other cultures, and we definitely use that to our advantage. And it's not just the physicalness of, you know, shoulder to shoulder being strong on the ball. It's actually the physicality of winning the ball back and chasing the ball back, and it was very pleasing to see in this first game because you could tell that the lads had eaten right, drank right, and they got themselves prepared into a very, very, very good condition, all things considered.
Steve, you got anything, mate, on the first game?
One of the things that, excuse me, one of the things that, you know, people that listen to this need to understand is that, you know, because we have such a big squad, you know, a lot of county players in the side, in the college, you know, this is open up to everybody that's involved with the academy. Now, some probably on the trip just gone, there's probably more players that have played less than 5 or 6 games for both sides of the academy than there were who played more. So not only are we going on a trip with young players who, you know, experiencing something like this for the first time, you put a team together that has never played with each other. You put a team together where players are playing some of their first games of the season, and some of them in different positions. So it's not as if we've gone out there and played, you know, the strongest sides that we have played on game days back in the UK. You know, that side never played together. Players are playing in different positions. Some players are playing for the first time. You know, some players have played less than 2-3 games. And what was the most impressive part of the whole tour is that, you know, we had a midfield, for example, that in general have never played with each other, and probably, maybe I'm wrong, but maybe played less than 2, 3, 4 games combined. And they fitted in like any midfielder that's ever happened at the college. You know, their rotation was good. They were dogging the fight. They were getting the ball back. They would win the ball back in 2 or 3 seconds and giving it again. You know, these Spanish sides, they played pretty football at times, but they were trying to be physical. You know, they were trying to bully us. And, you know, so the players that came in, like for like positions, literally adopted the traits that have been adopted in those positions for the last how many years at college. And that's saying something to them, because these guys have sometimes sat there in meetings, been at training and not played that many games, if hardly any, some of them. But the first one they had to come into the side, they took it and played and did exactly what the ethos, the ideologies, the principles that have been set out in everything that we've done. And they took that on board. They haven't moaned. They've just got it and done it. And that was the most impressive part. And out of that trip, you know, you end up looking at 10, 12, 14 new players that, you know, have been just, you know, silent partners so far that we know that can hold their own next year. That was the most impressive part of the tour. You know, these guys have been, they haven't played that many, you know, but they've come to all meetings, they come to all training, not been involved with games as much. And this is most of the guys that went. But when they had their chance and they played a position, you'd think they'd been in that position for the whole season. They did everything you wanted from them. And actually, at times, did more than some of the players that have been playing that position regularly, you know, and that was the most impressive part, especially against a side that were trying to play it around, especially against a side that, or both sides that were, you know, trying to be very physical And I don't mean physical in the aspect of traditional English physicality, but, you know, they were spitting and, you know, and scraping and, you know, leaving tackles, leaving, you know, kicks on. They were being real, real naughty. And these boys didn't bat an eyelid and they just gave it completely back. That was, to me, that was the best part of this tour.
Yeah, totally agree, mate. And I think the beauty of this training camp is the fact that after this 4-day period, it does, you know, bring players to the forefront that maybe we didn't have in mind at the early part of the season. And it's just a shame that the season got cut short because people would have definitely probably played themselves into final places or, you know, looking to try and win titles. But obviously that has left a big impression on us moving forward. So just before we move on to day 2, let's just have a look at this free kick. Not bad at all.
Someone on the sideline who went, he's not going to shoot from here, is he? He's not going to shoot.
No, well, to be fair, the layoff was rattled into him as well, so he done even well to control that. So fair play to him. What a goal scorer he is.
To be fair, he looked over me and I just said to him, just shoot. And he was like, and you know, and you don't need to Tom Schleich twice to shoot.
No. So day 2, I'm going to let Steve and Nath lead on this bit. So obviously, you know, there's no room for rest. The downtime is minimal because obviously people have paid quite a bit of money, to be honest, to come onto this as well. So we want to give them, you know, value for money and some. So obviously the focus, there was a little bit of training. We had a training session with the Catalan FA. So again, they focus very technical, possession-based, rondo style, all that kind of stuff. You know, this is all about learning. This is an educational visit. So with that in mind, again, we want to embrace different cultures. That's why we did a tourist bit on the last day. But guys, I've got some pictures here. Obviously, we're working in sand. And also some of the kind of players that have got little niggles and knocks, they're doing gym-based work, which is obviously great because we have access to that facility during these training camps. But guys, kind of just give me a little praise of what you both did to keep these guys sharp and ready for the game in the evening, which was a very eventful game, let's say.
Sorry, let me go first. I'll go first. Looking at these images on here, I think if you can see the images that are the bottom 3 ones, so they're all based on the sand. So again, kind of the ethos on this training camp doesn't change from our ethos all year round with the guys and their S&C sessions and how they prepare for training, how they prepare for games. So we follow a similar structure, albeit we do emphasise a little bit more on this training camp, mobility and a bit more kind of core and bodyweight focus exercise. So you can see on the sand here is that we've got the guys, I think the middle photo is me doing kind of a general mobility warm-up that we do with the guys most days. And this is kind of extremely important the day after a game. So they would have played in game 1 the evening before. So we wake up, have breakfast, and this is the first thing we do just to loosen off the legs. A kind of gentle start easing into day 2, and then off the back of that, Steve came in, which he'll explain to you in a second, I'll imagine, on some stuff that got the players kind of a little bit more alert, a little bit more focused, and just had a bit of fun with them. And before I finished, that top right-hand side was actually some of the players, unfortunately, had injuries going out to Salou, so they obviously paid their money, and I don't want to miss out. And we actually, I think this year, was probably the first year that we really took that side of the training camp to the next level, where we had injured players before, but generally people who picked up niggles whilst they're there. But we had a number of lads who came out with injuries already, so it allowed us to work with them specifically. And the image on the right hand side is we actually went into the gym and got a very good workout in with the lads that were unable to do all the running and football focused stuff, which I think adds another string to this camp's bow, because, you know, people do pick up injuries in life and in football. And if people have paid their money and they get an injury, unfortunately, leading up to this, then for whatever reason, do not think that you shouldn't be able to come, because like Dave said, and you guys have all said, the experience is the number one thing. And I think going on from this is you guys listening to this, if you're thinking about coming, you're getting a chance to experience what it's like to be living the life of a professional sportsman, a professional footballer. And if I had the chance when I was your age, I would snap your hand off to go do something like this. So it's really pleasing from my point of view. I'll just wrap it up with the fact that we could have got the stuff in with the guys, and the gym facilities are pretty good out there, to be fair. It's not like a dolly fitness suite that we've seen in the past. It is actually a proper gym. So, yeah, that was really, really pleasing to see.
Yeah, okay. From my perspective, I think one of the things that comes across to other people who are thinking about coming to the college, who have experienced college, or even that don't come to our environment, but hear through friends that have been, is, it's this family mentality, it's this team mentality, it's this group mentality, and we pride ourselves of being that all for one for all scenario. What I mean by that is that we work as a unit, we win as a unit, and we lose as a unit. And these sort of trips and the things that we do out there, especially when we start doing the physicality work, is to bring people together, to bring players together, to build that family, to build that team dynamics. And one of the things a couple of things that I did when I was out there is to incorporate teamwork, incorporate decision making, incorporate games that had winners and losers, and encourage people to want to win. For example, I did a thing called last man standing. We was on sand, soft surface, so full would be okay. You got on each other's back, and your job to run around the sand pit. And there's probably about 36 or so. So it's 18 pairs on top of each other, and your job is to try to pull somebody else down. So the person who's being piggybacked, if he falls down, then you're out the game. And we were just running around the court, trying to pull each other out, and it was about decision making. Do I go into that position where there's 2 or 3? Do I sneak back a little bit? Do I find the right moment in time? Where's my space? What kind of spatial awareness, communication, all those things regarding decision making, as well as the physicality of the strength of the core, and the strength of the legs, and the balance, and the coordination, the agility, all these sort of things. These sort of games build fun, build enjoyment, build an atmosphere and environment where, yes, people were trying to win, but it's enjoyment and fun in winning. And when you went down, you was part of the cheering team. So you cheered for your favourite, or you booed the ones you wanted to lose. So there's this external factor on that where you're under pressure now. So how do you deal with that pressurised situation? Are you making the right decisions at the right time, or now are you making a rash decision and you're not seeing somebody else come behind you and pull you down? It's stuff like that we did, that actually, as the coach on the side, you see other coaches around the venue, because obviously there's other teams staying there, and you saw coaches from all different kinds of nationalities standing and watching us, and they were watching us because they don't see these things, they don't see what we do. And at the end of it, you've got a whole group of 30 plus players, all high-fiving, all get themselves, group huddle, laughters, off the rafters, the enjoyment factors up, and people are buzzing, and they're helping their teammates out. They're helping their fellow mate out. They're encouraging other people. They're communicating. They're giving good instructions. They're part of a team. They don't want to lose. And this builds that team spirit. This builds that family, and it also builds a mentality where you're doing everything you can not to lose. And you're not going to accept surrender, you're not going to accept defeat, and you do everything you can not to surrender. And you go to that final second. And it's no coincidence that people were watching this from all different kinds of sides, and a lot of professional sides, because at the end of it, one of the things that we are known for, that other people try to eliminate, try to copy, but don't realise that it's not just put together for the sake of it. Is we are a family that will not surrender at any cost, and that's done in how we train, physicality sessions, which all become the psychology sessions, the mental sessions, the winning sessions, etc. That's the sort of things that we were doing on those days, alongside Nathan's S&C sessions again, which was that going to that final moment of, we built a group out there that we do every year. When we don't go out there, but we built a group in those environments of people that were, scared to come on the trip, that intimidated by other people on the trip, that have high anxiety levels, low confidence levels. At the end of it, we got guys that wouldn't say boo to a goose on the first day you walked in, to telling other people how they wanted and demanded they show respect, and demanding other people's ability to go to the end, and encouraging and dragging people across that line. That's what these sessions are all about. You know, it's all about not just you know, did it work this or did it work that. You know, it's the whole encompassing of the person. And like Jim says, you know, not only is a player getting better for the game of football, but at the end of it, you know, people are, constant people are, the mentality that comes with this trip is astronomical, and that's because not only do we push people to their max, that's so much fun along the way. And like everything else, if you enjoy it and you have fun and you're smiling, you don't even think and realise how hard the work is.
Totally. And
yeah, for sure.
Just quickly before we move on, Jim, and I'm going to let you commentate over the game in a minute, because the second game was quite an interesting one, to say the least. You know, we do work on that. We work on a family. We work on togetherness. We work on a unit. We work on having each other's back. You know, it's something that doesn't happen straight away, but also we do work a lot on attention to detail. And you know, within day 2, we had a training session. A lot of our training sessions are self-led. Again, it's that opportunity to stamp down the philosophy, and also there's little bits of attention to detail. So I know, you know, thinking back, Steve did a fantastic session on a bit of striker movement off the ball, which definitely helped us in the second game. But Jim, just have a quick chat about the attention to detail, mate, that we try and go into in these camps as well.
So yeah, so definitely things that, you know, as the group gets smaller, obviously we have a training group at college of around usually about 45, and you know, we train exactly the same we do at home as we did in Salou, but obviously now we're in a more concentrated population of players. So then it's a really good chance for us to hammer down those little bits of attention to detail, because they can take it on so much better in a smaller groups. So I'd done the work on midfield rotations, and you know, the understanding was, to start with, obviously they knew what the rotation was, but then it was about making sure that the timings were good. So when to move, what's my trigger to go and move? What should I be looking for so that I can play next? You know, we don't have a strict, he passes here and he's got to pass here, because, you know, we talk about adaptability a lot, and in terms of our players being able to solve problems, we want them to be able to recognise situations and moments in the game, so that actually when they do time their run correctly and they do receive in the right area, they have 3 or 4 solutions of how then they can go and break down or play forward or play or get the ball wide. So the attention to detail I was doing with midfield rotations was really good to hone on in the kind of 6, 7, 8 players, central midfield players, that we could really go and give that detail to. And then you see in game 2, I mean, the marked improvement in game 2, obviously because it was fresh, but because also because of the few of them there is, you know, that detail into them. And I think that was really key as part of our day 2 preparation for the game, was actually leading them to be able to, you know, come up with these solutions and come up with these, being able to solve these problems in the game, which was brilliant.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, so this second game, this side, La Selva, a lot more physical. Technically not bad either. The referee, you know, I always talk about controlling the controllables. You know, and we thought we did, but the referee, you know, made some interesting decisions to both sides. It was a very interesting game. Again, another great finish from Tom. Noah, who scored the first goal, and that's a bit blurry, but that's just because of the humidity. You know, he's another one who's come on leaps and bounds, and for me is you know, typifies in terms of the attitude and the hard running and wanting to learn. You know, but this game, you know, there was quite a few things that really impressed me, and I know the coaching staff in particular. One of them was the goal scorer of this goal coming up. You know, great bit of creativity from the guys. You know, this is something we do plan set pieces, but this wasn't. You know, this was something that was devised by the players. You know, even though he's looked over there, you know, he's looked at the situation. Tom, massive gap. great first touch. And then, this guy, Alfie, he's one that really, come to the fore during the 4 days in more ways than one. So we ended up winning relatively comfortably 4-1 in the end. But the strange things for me were, and I'll let you guys describe it as well in a minute, is that the amount of cards the ref was throwing out. I think every player got booked for something or other. It wasn't a dirty game, to be honest. And then the second thing is right at the end of the game. This was right at the end of the game, but I'll try and stop it if I can. But we were winning 4-1. I think the game was definitely gone. And if you can see this guy here, this fella here, actually wasn't on the pitch. He was a sub. So, and their coach, it was unbelievable. I called the game after. I think there was like a minute left or something, but I was like, I'm not having that. This guy come on the pitch and actually tried to take Alfie out. But, I think you'll describe in a minute, guys, he just shirked it off, which again is the attitude that we want from a winger in particular. Wingers, my days as a defender, and Nath knows as a defender as well. You put a winger in row Z, and if sometimes they don't come back, which is, which you've done your job. But the worst winger to play against is one that's unpredictable, and also one that if you try and kick them and they laugh in your face or something like that, you're in for a game. So it's that mentality side of things as well that you've got to develop as well as the technical side. So yeah, this guy come on and tried to take him out. He still went round him. But then I called it after that because that wasn't good. But guys, just a 15-second description of your analysis of that game. I thought we played well, but it was just an absolute.
Yeah, I think the thing. We've never experienced anything like that before. It's the most. We want to run the training camp as professional as possible. Every team we play out there is of a good standard, and they come out as professional as possible. This team was probably the best team we've played out there, I personally think. Yeah. And then they went and threw something like that into the mix, which, as coaching staff, we've never had to deal with. As a players, they've never had to deal with. And although I watched the video back and think, God, that looks so dog and duck from them. They're so good for character building, because the way the boys handled themselves was absolutely immense. Because if you do that to a teenage lad, you're expecting sparks to fly, when in fact actually the boys were absolutely impeccable in the way they behaved. And looking back at Noah's first goal, and this is what I love about this. Noah hadn't, Noah might mind me saying this. Noah hadn't scored in a while, and the boys had been saying to him, "Look, no, you're a striker. You need to start scoring goals." All this malarkey, in a positive way. And then when he scored that goal, the amount of player that I think pretty much the whole team ran up to him and celebrated, and he was absolutely buzzing. But I think that encapsulated, for me, that trip. That I thought it was such a good moment, because it just showed you how much it meant to all of the boys that Noah had scored. And I think that's something that showed how strong that group was. And then obviously to deal with a ridiculous situation like that in the way that they did was just, it was a very proud moment. Very, very proud moment.
Steve, got anything on that, mate?
No, look, I think, this side that we played on day 2 were, I think they probably quite successful in their team. They brought parents down and girlfriends and if people know me, and they know me by now, they realise that I'm not a person to lie down and take things for granted, or to lie down and be bullied. And this side try to bully us. They try to bully us with the fans on the side. They try to bully us with the ref. The ref was obviously Spanish, so they were speaking their own language. All this sort of stuff. They were trying to psychologically bully us. They spat, kicked out when the ball wasn't even there. There was physical punches thrown. They did everything they can to psychologically mess us up. And every single boy, without being told what to do, stood there and gave it back and so much more, but did it in a way that you would not even know it's been done. So from my perspective, when the whole environment is trying to bully you, and the boys, without being told, stood up, and as a unit and as individuals, won their battles, literally, and this is being spat up, this is being kicked up, and the ball's not even there, being punched in the face, being punched in the ribs, shirts being ripped by our opponents, everything. They did not delve down to their level, but they became more psychologically stronger and dominated them without you even realising they were doing it. And to me, that was just, it was everything that you dream of in a game of football when you are trying to encourage and develop this winning mentality that, you know, when people are trying to bully, you've got to come out. And this was the perfect moment for that to happen. And each single boy, and like I said before, there's boys that haven't even played all season, did that without being told and win the game 4-1 and absolutely psychologically and physically bully the opponents. That's, to me, we know that, you know, these boys can handle any situation now.
Nate, you got anything, mate, quickly, before we move on?
No, you guys summed it up well.
Top man. Love it. So, obviously, the game's done. The game's done now. Obviously, you know, we always maintain the work ethic. We always maintain we're here to work, we're here to develop. And again, in terms of the experience that we're giving the players, obviously looking at the pictures there in terms of the quality of the facility, the guys, the team picture there, you know, looking smart, looking the part, looking professional. Kind of, you know, from a training point of view, in terms of the football, it was more kind of walk through stuff potentially, maybe a bit on set pieces, a bit on finishing, a bit attention to detail. But guys, again, Nath, I'll start with you again, buddy. You know, what was there a change in the focus, or was it very similar to day two? And also, I know you've, and I'll plug it, I know you wrote a blog about it, not this year, but the year before. You know, kind of what are the benefits for doing this kind of training camp?
Yeah, so this day is, well, in the S&C stuff that we did with the lads, this day is all about recovery. So 2 hard games in the same amount of days, or 3 days, whatever, with travelling on top. So they are feeling a bit fatigued, and plus, like you guys have mentioned already, there's a lot of training in between games as well. So we're not just going out there playing games. You know, these guys are training 2-3 times a day as well. So it is a big ask. So we make sure this day we enjoy the facilities in the gym, which include the pool, and anyone will be able to read on our blogs or online the benefits of water immersion. So we do a bit of that. We just kind of loosen the legs off, getting them in and out of the pool. We try and manipulate the temperature at which they go in. So they use the saunas and they use the ice baths and all that sort of stuff as well, which obviously has a lot of research to back that up. But most importantly as well, we just kind of have it as a switching off mentally, so the guys can just have a bit of fun in the pool, not take things, you know, too seriously, and just enjoy it from there. And again, people listening to this, if you have or you haven't been on the training camp, is that if you are going to be going on it, which I hope you are, you guys are benefiting from what would be 4 years of every year getting better in terms of, you know, us guys as coaches will look at what we do and what we've done over the last 4 years, and we tinker it to improve the service. And you know, it's no bad or negative things saying that this camp was probably our best one yet, because of all the experiences we've had on the other camp, and we know how to run things to the best we can. So yeah, this day was all about recovery, but like I said, it's also good for the lads to have a bit of downtime, bit of switching off after a couple of hard days playing and training.
Steve, what was your focus, mate?
Yeah, like I said, I think very similar to Nathan's, really. I think, you know, the day before was a tough game, so I think we just, you know, it was just all about, like, it's not so much maintaining, but just letting the boys have, you know, just enjoying that moment, I think. You know, I think that the 2 days before that, you know, you come off a play and you play a game, then you play another game, and the games are quite intense. Boys done things they've never done before on the pitch. And this was sort of the first day where, you know, they could sort of, you know, enjoy that moment. Because I think a lot of times in the heat of something which is so intense, you know, you look back and you only remember the intense part. Still enjoyable because you win the games and you're experiencing things that you've never experienced. But sometimes you forget about, you know, actually, you know, they are young men who are new to travelling, young men who have never experienced full-time, you know, those amount of days actually, you know, full-time training. So that day really was just about having some fun, big smiles on the faces, and letting them sort of enjoy that, enjoy the sort of the previous 2 days really.
Yeah, no, just Jim, just let's finish off with 2 words. 3 team.
Yeah, 3 team. It was a 3 team for day 3. Again, still good work. But the boys come in, obviously a bit fatigued. Obviously, the great work that Nathan and Steve done during the morning, already loosened off. Then we trained. So I think we did a bit of structure work on day 3, and then obviously something that's a bit with the workload a bit lower in terms of workload. So I think we looked at structure and then attention to detail in terms of especially when obviously we done all our games, especially when we went home back to the UK. Little bits of tendencies of how we wanted to set up attacking in our attacking phases of play, and then we went on to again a bit of fun. Free team, the boys, boys who have been in the academy and been in the process know what free team is. Bit of fun, again, smiles on faces before they went in the spa, and the spa is something that we all enjoy. In terms of, again, it still amazes me to this day that by day 3 the boys get the spa and they have an extra burst of energy from somewhere, because they're like little kids, the first time they see water. So I think day 3 is a really good day for in realising how much you've enjoyed the process, and in terms of as well the boys getting to know each other better. And you start to see, it's by day 3, you start to see these little personalities come out of shells, which is really interesting. And something that as coaches we can kind of sit back in the swimming pool and kind of see these personalities coming out from players that aren't always the most outgoing. So day 3 is a really important, enjoyable day to kind of look at the work that we're doing, and also look back on the work that we've done and enjoy the process really.
Yeah, definitely. It's great to have that balance of hard work, but also the understanding of the recovery, because this is an educational training camp. We are here to learn. We are here to develop as people. We're here to develop as players. And to have this balance, as Nathan quite rightly said, after 4 years, we're hopefully getting better each year. So next year will be topped this year, I'm sure. Day 4, bit of a tradition. It's split into 2. So the morning, we let we let Steve loose on them. We always go down to the beach. Literally, the beach is about a 5-minute jog from the complex. Perfect. The boys got away with it this year because it's a little bit overcast. Previous years it's been 20 degrees. A little bit overcast. So they got away with it a little bit. But again, we're here to work. So just Nathan, Steve. So Steve, start with you, mate. Just tell us what we do in the first half of day 4, and then me and Jim will take up the touristy bit.
Yeah, like I say, we get down to that beach as quick as we can. Boys run it. My dodgy knees, I walk it. And we get down to the beach, and unlike any time you're on the beach, workload always goes up. There's no else about it. So from my perspective, I think we did a little fun and games where you paired up against someone, and you had your home bit, and they had their home bit, and you had to try to get into their home bit, so to speak, and you had to defend it any way you could. And again, on the sand, that led to, you can imagine, people trying to stop people crossing the line to get into their home bit. We had, there was sumo wrestling going on, there was wrestling, there was, I can't even name the things that were going on. But the most important thing of all, people never wanted to, people were trying to do everything they can, not let their partner cross the line. People that were trying to cross the line and do everything they can to cross the line. We had time limit. We had people that went to the time limit that was exhausted. People trying to find ways to stop each other. People trying to find ways to get across. So people had to think on their feet, decision making, being clever, being snide and sharp about things. But like I say, all these things always end up 100% of the time with people clapping each other, people encouraging each other, people smiling, people laughing, you know, and more importantly, as important, you know, memories to be told, experiences to be shared, and when you mix that with what we really did, when you did down on the physicality and stuff like that, but you know, pure fun, you know, and it's like they're back as 10-year-old kids playing in the school playground, their mates, you know, carefree, being creative, no one telling them what to do, how to do it, having autonomy, not being told the rules, not being told you're right or wrong, just literally go and have some fun. And that, you know, if I could sum up this experience, that we give people the opportunity to have fun and find their own personal creativity and autonomy.
Yeah, right. I think this day is always a good, enjoyable one. And in recent years gone by, Harry Short has been on the camp with us, one of the performance coaches at SBC, and he kind of used to take the mantle of the one who would give them a tough workout. So the workout was pretty hard this year, and then Steve upped it a notch and made it even harder, because it is the last little bit of tough work for the guys before they get to enjoy the touristy bit on the last few hours. So yeah, this is a great end. It's just last little blast before we head into Barcelona, and like Steve said, it's just a bit of fun. It's a bit more old school. There isn't as much method to the madness in terms of we're not structuring it and getting ready for a game or recovering it. It's just literally, let's do some old school military style workouts, bit of bonding. Guys are doing farmers carries, wheelbarrow carries, all that sort of stuff, to kind of really bring them all together for the final day of the trip, and just kind of cement that bond that, like you guys have all said, some of them would and would not have had before they came on this trip. So it's it's a great end.
I think, you know, I just quickly touched on what Nathan said there. You know, day 4 is hard. Day 4 is really hard workload-wise. And I think it's really interesting because you can tell within the boys in day 3, they know what's happening on day 4. So there's almost a bit of fear for the future. But when they get there, you know, they work really hard, really, really hard. But it's when they come together and you can see them working their absolute knackers off to make sure that every single one of them completes it is again one of the reasons why we want to do the visit.
Yeah, and this culminates quite nicely. So obviously tired legs, tired minds. So we do a bit of tourist stuff. We go to Barcelona. We dropped into Barcelona. We did a new camp tour. Obviously, one of the most iconic stadiums in the world. You may or may not have been to it before. You know, obviously we've been now 3-4 times, but you know, it still amazes me in terms of, you know, how big it is, the culture, the history of the club, how it's structured, what its foundations were built on, and obviously again, it's still about the player bringing in information, soaking up like a sponge. And then the other thing, which obviously, you know, we'll do a concluding comment next. You know, the other thing for me, and I think Jim alluded to at the start, is, you know, we are giving them license to grow as people. So for that, obviously what we do is we say, right, you've got this time to meet by the bus. So we obviously park up, or we get a coach drop us off at the coach station at Los Ramblas. And you've got 2 hours, you know, you go in small groups, but you've got 2 hours to enjoy the city. Obviously, we go and enjoy the sights. You know, we see all the famous landmarks and have a nice bit of tapas. But, you know, the boys tend to go to the nearest McDonald's. But obviously that's their choice. But, again, it's about being given that freedom to make decisions, which, again, you know, later down the line, it's one of the most beautiful cities in the world, definitely in Europe. So, you know, again, to experience that, as part of this package, and to work hard and to have fun and to be in the, you know, in the environment you love, is, for me, is an absolute no-brainer. And obviously any training camp is only as good as its staff. So, you know, I know that I have 3 of the best, you know, members of staff, along with Harry Short as well. I won't forget Harry. Harry's been, you know, a mainstay of our programs as well, because you all add something to the program. So starting with, just to wrap up, guys, basically, you know, just if you could give me a concluding comment on maybe, you know, on why why someone, if they do get into the academy this year, or if they're in the academy at the moment, why they should take advantage of this opportunity. So I'll start with you, Jim.
I just think if you're interested by this, I think the best people to speak to, if you already know boys who are in the program, go and speak to them, and they'll tell you that it's one of the best things they've ever, best experiences they've had as a young adult. The boys absolutely love this trip. They absolutely love it, and we absolutely love it because I get to see players in more detail. Some players turn up and who maybe, like Steve alluded to earlier, maybe haven't played as much as they would like, and they come out to Spain, and you're like, yeah, do you know what, they've, I might have overlooked them, bad part on me perhaps. And I think they're just the general experience is unbelievable in terms of how we can see a development in them as players, but mostly it's the development of them as people. And I think, again, if you guys get into the program next year and are seriously thinking about coming to Salou, go and ask the boys. Go and ask the boys who have done it, been there, and I know what they'll tell you. They'll tell you that you've got to do it because it's such a good experience.
Top man, Steve.
Yeah, like Jim said, first of all, go and speak to people that have players that have been on the trip, and they will give you the honest feedback. And for you guys that are listening, that think about coming to the college and while the college, and sort of what Jim said, I can probably enough guarantee, without knowing your background or your playing history, this will probably be the best footballing experience of your life. Because it's an experience where you get treated like a professional player. There is no, there's no trophy at the end of it as such. But you're doing things that you never experienced, both physically and mentally. You're playing against sides that you never experienced. The intensity is high, but you want the intensity to be high because it's an introduction to a life that you can have as a player. The work ethic in the amount of days that we're there shows how high you're working at the needs of make. And this will be the first time in your footballing career where you experience that, that environment where everything is purely football from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed. And I can say, with my hand in my heart, is the staff that go are probably the most passionate staff about what to do than you'll find. And that's why the intensity is so high. Speak to the boys who have been. But if you want to have a life-changing experience, if you want to experience being a professional player at the highest level, because again, there's so much that goes on that in a short amount of time, but the intensity is high because the passion of the staff is so high. If you want to experience that, and if you want to have memories that you can tell everybody else in years to come and share experiences, and these boys on this trip, the second game, they've got experiences for the rest of their life that no one else would ever have. And that's what this is all about. Having autonomy, living by your rules, no regulations as such, developing in your own time, ultimately having experience personally, collective group that you will never ever forget, and having a bunch of friends that you will have for the rest of your life. That's what this trip's about. And along the way, we kick a football around and win a few games. So jobs are good.
Finish with you, Nate.
Yeah, hard one to follow up because you guys have all nailed it. But yeah, exactly that. I said it at the start, but if I was a young lad, I would do anything to go on a trip like this. Opportunities like this in your life, even if even being a teenager, don't come around very often, or if any at all. So anyone thinking about it or interested in it, I would say just do it, because there's nothing that you regret. Not only do you get to live the life or experience the life of a professional footballer, you get to do it around your friends, you get to make new friends, you get to play against Spanish opposition, you get to experience a different culture, a different climate, especially during the bleak winter months that February normally is in England. And honestly, it just goes from strength to strength. Each year, like I said, it gets better and better, and we review everything that we do down to the minute details. And I think I'll speak for all of us and say that Dave makes sure that everything is literally on a plate for every player there. They don't have to worry about anything. Everything is done for you. The parents are always kept in the loop, and everything is, everything's just top notch. And it's a privilege to be a part of it. And looking forward to February already.
Perfect. Thank you, chaps. And obviously, if you listen to this, you want to find out more, contact me. Obviously, we'll get some information out as soon as we can. But in the meantime, stay safe. And thanks you all for your top work on this podcast.